Why, hello there, MoshPitbeta. This is Nagi, and I got a battle against SoftP0rn, and this time we're going to use the orange versus recorder because orange is an amazing color. But anyway, he's going to send in his Gliscor, his shiny Gliscor, and I'm going to send in my Latios, and then he's going to switch out and go into his Jirachi, predicting the Dragon move, but I go for the Surf instead, knowing that I could take out the Gliscor. But he does switch into his Jirachi, and the Surf does around half, and I'm going to switch out first, because he switches out as well, which I didn't get too much, but I go into my Natarang, he goes into his Rotom Wash, then he switches out again and goes into his Rankaroots, predicting the Toxic or Leech Seed. I go for Leech Seed. And yeah, and then at fourth time, he goes into his Zapdos. And I switch out as well because I don't have anything to do with this Rankaroots with my Natarang or whatever. So I go into my Kajondo, I go for the Fake Out. It gets a crit, which doesn't really matter too much because he does roost off the damage, which kind of sucked, but whatever. So I go for the U-turn and I go into my Dragonite named Haka, and yeah. Then he goes for the Roost on this turn, which gets him back to full HP after he gets the Leftovers recovery, which is good for him, and it kind of just made things harder for me. So he goes for the HP Ice, and with the multi-scale, can the bulk I have invested in my Dragonite, I'm gonna live it very, very nicely. And then I'm gonna go for the Dragon Claw because I thought he'd go for the Substitute, because a lot of Zapdos have Substitute. Well, from what I see, like the Zapdoses I've battled have sub, so whatever. So this turn I actually go for the T-Wave, knowing I could live the second HP Ice from seeing what the first one did. So I doubled the damage, and then I knew I could just live it. So now he has a T-Waved Zapdos. He's gonna switch out into his Rotom Wash, and I go for the Roost on the switch, which is nice. Although I'm not back to multi-scale HP, which really would have helped me out, but whatever. Then he goes for the Will-O-Wisp, and that kinda makes things harder for me later on in the battle, as you're gonna see. And yeah, I go for the T-Wave on the Rotom Wash, although Rotom Wash is still kinda slow in its own right. So then I'm gonna switch out and go into my Natarang, so I could take the T-Bolt or the Hydro Pump or the Hidden Power Ice that it could possibly carry. So he's gonna switch out and not go for a Will-O-Wisp. I should have thought he would have went for Will-O-Wisp, but he goes into his Gliscor so I can take the Gyro Ball of some sort. And then at this point, I actually switch out into my Latios, predicting him to go for either the Earthquake or Stealth Rock, and he goes for Stealth Rock. So yeah, at this point, I actually went for Surf here, but he goes into his Jirachi again, and actually, I don't go for Surf. I go for the Draco Meteor, and it misses, which is not all too good. But I do hit it the next turn, and he thought that I'd actually switch at this point, so he does go for Calm Mind and not go for the Shadow Ball or the Ice Beam or something. So yeah, I do stay in. I do go for the Draco Meteor one more time, knowing that it's gonna take it out, even with the -2 and the +1 on his part. So his Jirachi goes down, and that's really good for me because Steel type. And he goes into his Machamp, and now I have to go into my Deoxys Defense so I can take the Dynamic Punch or the Payback. But he does go for Substitute, which is common, but whatever, things happen. So we both get Leftovers recovery, and I go for Psychic, and that does take out the sub. And I do get a crit on the sub, which is always funny. And then he goes for the Dynamic Punch and not the Payback. I don't know why he went for Dynamic Punch. Possibly because of the Confusion Hacks, but that would really just be the only reason why. So we both left those recovery, and he just switch out at this point because he knows I'm faster. He goes into a Zapdos, and I do hit myself here, and he was really hoping for the Confusion Hacks, and he does get it, which is really good for him. And then I do hit myself again next turn because I was actually hoping to get off some Calm Minds with my Deoxys Defense, but it doesn't end up happening. And he goes for Thunderbolt and doesn't do too much to me, which is nice. So I'm gonna go for the Calm Mind after I'm not confused anymore, and he goes for the Hidden Power Ice, predicting my switch into Latios so I could take the T-Bolt, but I knew that I could get a T-Bolt anyway because I could just go for Calm Mind and recover. But then he goes into his Rankaroots, which is a lot of trouble in this match. It took me a long time for me to take it down, with like with certain switches. But at this point, I couldn't really hit it because this Deoxys has Psychic and Hidden Power of Fighting. Although I would have actually hoped that this thing had Psychic and Shadow Ball in this battle. But whatever, it does get walled by Steel types if I have the Shadow Ball, but things happen. So I'm gonna go into my Kojondo, knowing that he's not gonna Psychic a Deoxys defense, so this should be a safe switch. So I do go for the Fake Out, and at this point, what I was gonna do was I was gonna go for the U-turn, then sacrifice something, then U-turn again, then sacrifice something, possibly U-turn a third time, so I could like get some damage on the front, then hopefully take out the Rancorous, and that is a lot of U-turns, I know, guys, but that's how I had to go down. So he does go for the Calm Mind on the U-turn switch, and yeah, he doesn't have too much HP, and we both get Leftovers Recovery. I do get the burn damage, and I go for the Dragon Claw. I get a crit, and if I wasn't burned, I knew it would have killed, but it does. I am burned, and he does go for the Recover, which sucks because Rancorous is really bulky. So that's why it's so hard to take down in these kinds of battles. So I do go with Dragon Claw one more time, and luckily he does not go for. He doesn't go for a second recovery. He goes for a Psychic this turn, so he does not have full HP, which is really nice. So I go for the Fake Out here. Well, I go back into my Kojondo, and it does a good amount of damage. And now he is flinched, and he's almost back to half HP. Well, I do go for U-turn, hoping it would kill, but like so close, and he is not actually taken out, which sucks. And then I go into my Musketeer, and he does go for the Recover again. So he has a really good amount of HP again, and my chances of taking this thing out are kind of slim. But I do go for the Stone Edge, and even though this is Terrakion and this is Stone Edge and this is Life Orb, I don't take it out. I'm getting really close to like KOing this thing, but I don't KO it anyway. So I had to sacrifice my Terrakion and my Dragonite so I can finally take out the Rancorous with a third U-turn. And yeah, I'm gonna finally take out the Rancorous while I U-turn into my Deoxys defense. Yes. And he actually goes into, well, yeah. First I get the recovery from Leftovers, and the pressure activates. But he goes into his Gliscor, and I'm gonna switch out, and I'm gonna go into my Natteray, so I could take whatever he has. And he goes for the Earthquake, which doesn't do too much, and that's very nice because whatever. I need this Natteray to live. He goes for the U-turn, so now I know he has U-turn, so it could possibly be a threat to my Deoxys defense. And then he U-turns out into his Machamp, and I do go for the Leech Seed, which is gonna help me out. And yeah, we both get Leftovers Recovery, and yeah, and stuff. I get the Leech Seed recovery, and then he goes for the sub here, thinking that I would switch. And I don't actually switch because I know that Dynamic Punch is not gonna kill me. Yeah, because I know Dynamic Punch is not gonna kill me. And I do go for the Gyro Ball, knowing that he would like do something else, and it does take out the sub, which is very nice. And then he does get Leech Seed damage, and now I'm at full HP, so I know I could really just live the Dynamic Punch, and I do live it, which is very nice. I get confused, and he does get hit by Steel Thorns, and it was a really good thing that I broke through the confusion and hit him with Gyro Ball, so I can finally take out the Machamp. So this pretty much means, okay, now that Machamp and Jirachi is gone, I can go to my Deoxys defense. I can start setting up Calm Mind, so I can take out the rest of his Pokemon, which is that's very nice, like for me. So he does go into his Zapdos. He goes for the Heat Wave, and that's gonna take out my Natteray, and that's what I hoped for. So now I'm going to my Deoxys defense, and I do get the pressure, and then I'm gonna start going for the Recover first because I didn't want him to crit his T-Bolt, so I can just take out my Deoxys. But yeah, he does go for T-Bolt, and now he's at max HP with the Leftovers. I start going for Calm Minds at this point, knowing they can't do anything to my Deoxys defense. And then he goes for the T-Bolt and doesn't do too much, which is nice. And then I get Leftovers Recovery, and then I go for a second Calm Mind. And at this point, he actually gets like Parahax here, which is not too good for him. Yeah. So then I go for a third Calm Mind because I don't know. I was playing really greedy, but he does get Parahax again, which is kind of funny and kind of nice on my part. So at this point, I do go for Psychic, and it does a round half to the Zapdos, considering I have +3 and I am modest nature. But you know, if I got +4, it would have been pretty funny. But then I go for a second Psychic so I could finally take out the Zapdos. And yeah, Zapdos goes down. I do get Leftovers Recovery. Then he goes into his Gliscor, and he's gonna U-turn out into his Rotom Wash. And I go for Psychic on the incoming Rotom, and I actually crit it, which is pretty funny. And after the Rotom Wash goes down, he goes into his Gliscor and takes the Psychic, and that is gonna be game. So he goes into his Gliscor, he goes for the U-turn, and that does actually goes for Earthquake, but that does not kill me. So I go for the Psychic, and that is going to be game. So great game, SoftP0rn. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the battle, and see you guys later, MoshPit Beta.